Hey guys, welcome back to Spindle Feeds. This episode is somewhat of a show and tell of my recently acquired Kearney and Trecker horizontal milling machine. This is a model 3CH and comes with a 10 horsepower motor. Certainly not the biggest mill they made, but it is significantly bigger than other models they offered. Referencing the serial number, the run of this unit came from what was completed in 1951. So it is a post-World War II machine. Of course, I don't know the whole life story of this unit, but before it came into my possession, it served many years in a trade school. Accompanying this mill is a universal vertical milling head attachment. The head didn't come with the machine when I bought it, rather it was a separate purchase that spent its life at the University of Southern California. These vertical heads can be found these days, but usually with a lot of patience and just a little luck. This milling machine, as one would expect, came with some non-critical parts missing, like the rear control cross and elevating crank, the cross-feed rear control handle, the Bijor auto lube pull handle, as well as the saddle clamp handle. You can also use some new sight glass and gaskets. The elusive drive gear for the vertical head attachment is absent as well. I'm sure I'll be scouring both the light and dark web, including every marketplace listing from here to Timbuktu for this gear. Now, if you know of Keith Rucker and seen many videos on his channel, you're surely aware that he has a Kearney and Trecker Model 3H horizontal mill, which is basically the same machine as this 3CH, but with a smaller motor and different gears. When Keith got his machine, he was missing some of the same components as mine, but was able to scare up some replacements. I reached out to Keith for some dimensions of his cross-feed rear control handle, as I wanted to make a new one that somewhat resembles the original K&T part. He was willing to help out, but first he suggested that I reach out to Grundy to see if he had the parts I needed, and was nice enough to put me in contact. For anyone not in the know, Mr. Grundy worked 30 years at K&T until they closed their doors in 1991, after which he bought a huge lot of K&T's parts inventory, which to this day he kindly distributes to beggars like me at reasonable prices. The day he finally runs out of parts or unwinds himself from this mortal coil, we are certainly going to find ourselves up a creek without a paddle. I must say, though, that with my several conversations with Mr. Grundy, each time I found myself wading through pearls of wisdom, which he freely shares about these machines, and that in itself is quite a gift. Anyway, I digress. Ron had one part that was a new old stock direct replacement for my machine, which was the saddle clamp handle. Additionally, I received an entire Bijor pump assembly. The pump in my machine still works great, so I'm going to just keep the new pump stored away in case I ever do need it, and just scavenge the pull handle for now. Ron also sent me a cross-feed rear control handle, which I believe came off a bigger model, as the hole is too big for the shaft. I think with the bushing we can make this work though. He didn't have a rear control cross and elevating crank that would fit my machine, but he had no shortage of crank handles. So I asked him to send me one, and I can just modify it to fit this application. And I think we'll tackle that in another video. This machine did come with an arbor support and 250 taper arbors. The arbor support was mounted when the machine arrived. It was somewhat difficult to slide it off the overarms, but perseverance won the day. The vertical head attachment was proving equally as challenging to mount to the overarms. Ron suggested that a good cleaning on every surface and about 20 minutes of elbow grease on the overarms with a strip of emery cloth, which ultimately worked great. The ways on the knee of this machine have had some issues. At one point in its life, one of the ways got scored, and somebody managed to braze in the scored areas. Of course, I was a bit concerned about both the damage and the repair, and asked Ron if it can be an issue should I ever decide to scrape these back in. He suggested leaving it for now as it's not hurting anything and to just make sure that it's regularly oiled. He shared that the reason the ways got scored on these machines is because the tables were too heavy for these unhardened ways, and in later models they switched to hardened ways to mitigate this very issue. See? Pearls of wisdom. I'm currently waiting for the replacement plastic sight glass and gaskets. Ron makes these in-house, so that delivery is much anticipated. Other attachments I would like to acquire in the future for this machine is a vertical head parking attachment and a load lead attachment. Well, that just about does it for this episode. I'd like to send a shout out to both Keith Rucker and Ron Grundy with a special thank you for taking time to graciously offer assistance to a fellow enthusiast. Be sure to check back for future videos covering the repairs and parts replacement on this machine, after which we'll be ready to put some power to it and take it for a spin. As always, thanks for watching.